On this edition of Motorcycle Experience, we loosen up some bolts and lay down some paint. And just before heading to Mount Rushmore, we'll pump up our tires and load up for a tour as Motovan presents Motorcycle Experience. Hello and welcome to Motorcycle Experience, the voice of motorcyclists everywhere. I'm Dave Hatch, and this week we're kicking off a brand new season and marking our 25th year of all things two wheels. So let's get right to it as we sample this week's road test, Yamaha's FZ9. Behold the Yamaha FZ9, a totally naked, fuel-injected 850cc triple that delivers a whole pile of fun for under 10 grand. At the heart of this hooligan is an all-new 12-valve inline three-banger that sports fly-by-wire throttle control and selectable throttle maps. As a result, the Niner delivers the silky smooth power of an inline four, along with a healthy dollop of low-end torque usually associated with a twin. Then there's the beefy 41mm inverted fork up front, mated to dual floating discs with 4-piston monoblocks. Look a little closer and you'll note the nice touches like the cast aluminum wheels, forged aluminum triple clamps, and aluminum handlebar. This is the kind of rare motorcycle that says the person who designed it rides. Why do I say that? Because the FZ9 is fun. But you don't have to take my word for it. Here's what this week's guest rider, Mark Russell, had to say.
So Mark, I'll tell you my first impression, this is a bad boy. This is an evil bike.
This was way faster than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
And a lot more fun and a lot more comfortable than I expected it to be. It wasn't perfect in any way in that way, but it was comfortable and more so than a full-fairing sport bike by a large margin, I thought.
Well, let's break it into pieces. I mean, First and foremost, the heart and soul. This is a snarly motor. Man, did I like it.
Super torquey and super powerful. I was a little surprised. I looked it up. It's a 3-cylinder. I assume it's based on the previous 4. And I thought maybe it would lose something in that, but not at all. It is just torquey and powerful beyond description. And the exhaust note, the exhaust is right by your foot there. It's kind of pleasing, a little bit snarly, and way more power than anyone needs, a lot of power.
Big beefy brakes, good brakes. How did you find the stopping power?
Awesome.
Yeah.
And they're cross drilled. They make that funny buzz noise. You don't feel it in the lever at all, but when you really hammer on the brakes, you can hear them, and it's just stopping like nothing. I didn't use the rear brake at all. It's just the way I learned to ride. But the front brake is awesomely powerful, and you got that gigantic fork. So it's really stiff up there. It's on a steep brake. It's all set up for play.
What do you think of the fit and finish?
This is typical of Yamaha, is that the fit and finish is exquisite. At this price point, you're not getting, machined aluminum fittings, but they're high grade and they're all put together well, and that's something that's not easy to find. And yeah, really nicely put together, nicely designed. Liked all of that.
Who are we going to recommend this bike to? Clearly, it's not for a first-time rider.
No,
it's just too much fun. They're not allowed to have that much fun.
Well, this is a super bike. It's more bike than you should have when you're still learning to ride. I would say this is a great city bike because of the seating position. This would be a great bike to commute on and still have an awesome bike to ride on the weekends out in the country.
And what's going to be the one lasting impression?
I think the motor.
Yeah.
The motor is awesome. And I think this is new for Yamaha in this era, a triple. It's a popular type of motor right now, and they've done a really great job.
Yeah, it's great to see a bike with a motor that has so much character.
Yeah. I think anybody who buys one of these is going to be happy with it and be able to use it, like I said, for commuting or for, real sport riding. It's not a track bike, but you don't ride like that on the road anyway. But for sport riding on the road, it's awesome.
Great job.
Thanks,
Had
Dave.
fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Hang in there, there's plenty more experience still in the tank. Next, Norm and I head to Sturgis, South Dakota, while world-famous airbrush artist David Arrigo goes coast to coast. Stay with us. Portions of Motorcycle Experience are brought to you in part by Harley-Davidson, BMW Motorrad, and Triumph Motorcycles. Closed captioning of this program is brought to you by Honda Canada.
Oh my goodness, there's dust everywhere, and there was even a cover on this bike. Welcome back to The Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now to catch up with airbrush artist David Arrigo as he gets set to paint a very special anniversary motorcycle for both Motorcycle Experience and Honda Canada. But before we do that, let's kickstart this season's Ultimate Ride.
So as you know, for 12 summers running, Norm Wells of BMW Motorrad and myself have been riding and exploring a variety of destinations all across North America. It's like we've been checking off our own personal bucket list. As for this year's adventure, our 13th, we decided it was time to do the whole Sturgis, South Dakota thing. After all, for over 70 years, each August, tens of thousands of motorcyclists have flocked to this tiny town, located about 700 clicks due south of Regina. But as you know, Norm and I hate crowds. So as always, we traveled during the shoulder season. And this most recent trip to Sturgis was no exception.
Well, you know, Norm, when I guess motorcyclists get together and they talk about the meccas, one of them is obviously Daytona Bike Week and the other one is Sturgis in August. And here we are on Main Street, Sturgis, South Dakota. And this is not what I expected at all, because every time I've seen photographs of Sturgis, there's thousands and thousands of bikers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think thousands is light. There's hundreds of thousands of motorcyclists, and this place is just packed.
Right.
You can't even see anything. It's just humans and bikes.
Well, that must be 1 week of the year, and right now it's a ghost town, but and windy. But here we are getting set to kick off our 13th Ultimate Ride, and I'm stoked. What's on the itinerary for the next couple of days?
Well, Deadwood's going to be like a two-night place for us this trip, because we can do some nice loops from here. So the first one tomorrow, we're going to head down south and head towards Mount Rushmore. We'll go see the Needles Highway. That's supposed to be an absolutely beautiful highway to ride. There's the Crazy Horse Memorial. And then we'll just kind of wind our way back up through the roads and enjoy the roads a little bit. And then on the next day, we'll actually head into Wyoming and head towards Sundance, and we'll go up to the Devil's Tower, which is another really cool rock monument.
Right.
And yeah, so that'll be the second loop, and then day 3 we'll kind of see where we're at and go from there.
I'm assuming day 3 will be the Badlands if the weather holds?
Yeah, where we are now and what we're going to be doing the first couple of days is called the Black Hills region, and the Badlands are just on the east side of Rapid City, and those are really cool. We have to get over there. It's supposed to be cold and rainy on Thursday, so we might mix up the trip a little bit so that we get over there and get some nice shots and scenery. But overall, a good-looking trip for the next few days.
Well, I know that there is a lot of history here. You know, we've got the opening of the West, the frontiers. We've got the Custer Gold Rush. We've got the Lakota and the Sioux. So I know we're going to get a lot of history lessons along the way. What about the riding itself? Are we here for twisty roads, or are we here for scenery, or both?
We're definitely here for both. The roads are going to be absolutely beautiful. There's going to be some real twisty, gnarly, difficult kind of riding conditions, and then just the beautiful long roads with beautiful scenery on the sides. So yeah, a good blend of everything.
Okay, well, as we said, we're going to use Deadwood as our home base for the first 2 nights, so let's head west from here to there and get set for our 13th Ultimate Ride, and man, I'm stoked.
Let's get it going.
This is going to be good.
Be sure to tune in next week and see how this Ultimate Ride turns out. I mean, after all, it's only our 13th. That's not an unlucky number, is it? Anyway, it turns out this season, not only are we celebrating our 25th, but Honda Canada is lighting a few candles as well. Turns out the Goldwing is turning 40, and we've come up with I think, a pretty good way to celebrate and mark the occasion. We asked world-renowned artist David Arrigo to create us a very special coast-to-coast Honda. And as we get set to fire up this project, let's meet the artist.
It's one of those stories. It's the, failed grade 9 art, never took it again, and here I am 25 plus years later, painting away and working with all sorts of very cool sports industries such as the NFL, NHL. I've worked the Winter Olympics twice now, and now I'm trying to push myself into the motorcycle culture because that's a nice canvas to paint.
David got his start back in the 90s painting denim jackets, a gig that led to creating a massive wall mural outside of Wayne Gretzky's Resto in downtown Toronto. From there, the Hockey Hall of Fame came calling, along with many Olympians, a who's who of NHL goalies, and eventually the NFL. And this whole time, the airbrush has been David's tool of choice.
The airbrush, I just became so accustomed to it, and in the last few years I've been trying to create my own distinctive style where I do mix in the paintbrush with the airbrush, so you're not even sure exactly to what degree I've used either of the instruments.
But David's ride onto the motorcycle scene has not been entirely a smooth one. When we first commissioned him to paint a Honda, I had envisioned him going to town on a Fury or a Phantom. However, in the end, Honda Canada chose a Goldwing F6B, a beautiful machine that comes with plenty of bodywork.
I was expecting your standard tank, fender, and maybe a fairing. And then when the bike was delivered into my studio in so many various pieces, I was a little confused to say the least. It was like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. Honda wanted to have a tie-in with Coast to Coast Canada, and of course Mr. Honda being on the front of the bike. So the idea was to have the beginning of the bike created with Mr. Honda and then it blowing open with Canadian maple leafs into the various scenes. I want to definitely show off, the ride through the mountains. I was lucky enough that I had the opportunity of driving through the mountains out on the west coast as well as on the east coast, the beautiful shores, the lighthouses, the ocean view. What I want to do is be able to capture, the feeling that I had when I did those rides into the pieces that we're going to be painting.
So over the next couple of weeks, we'll follow David piece by piece as he attempts to complete this exciting project in just 3 days in front of a live audience during the Toronto Motorcycle Show. Be prepared to be blown away. Now keep it on the side stand because there's still plenty more experience around the bend. Up next, we'll fire up Project Lightning Bolt and shift gears with our very own in-house riding instructor. Stay with us.
Welcome back to The Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now to check in with our in-house riding instructor, Clinton Smout. But before we do that, we're going to pop into Rob Egan's speed shop out in Pickering, Ontario. This week he's starting a brand new project. He's going to take a bone stock Yamaha Bolt and turn it into a cafe racer. Rob, Project Lightning Bolt, we're kick-starting the project today, and I'm really excited. We've got the stock bike right here. You took a look at it and you said, let's change it.
Yes, we're not big fans of cruisers. They all have their purpose, but we're going to change this one into a cafe racer is the goal.
Okay, so what are some of the key components you need to change to get the project rolling?
Well, we want to lighten it up, so we started at the back this time, and we're going to change the rear wheel.
Okay, so here's the stock rear wheel down here. What is this?
This is a R1 rear wheel, which is 17-inch versus the 16-inch stock wheel. Mm-hmm. It's much wider, and we can put better street rubber on it because it's much more available, and it definitely make it handle better. So.
And you mentioned the other big component you want to change to start with is the fork. Now, what are you going to do up front?
Well, we found that the steering stem was exactly the same size as the R1 front end. Yeah. So we'll be able to press that out, press it into the other front end, and hopefully everything's going to bolt up nice, and we'll be able to get that part over in a hurry. So.
Okay, so R1 rear, R1 front end, and you've got the fork right here.
Yep.
Clearly it's a lot beefier, but I see we're also going to get some benefits in the braking department.
Yep, we have twin front brakes now versus the single disc on this one.
Yeah.
It's the stock one, I believe, is about a 290 millimeter rotor, where these are 320s. They're radial mount brakes. They're 3 piston calipers on each side versus 2.
Yeah.
And it's an inverted fork, which makes it much more rigid and will also make it handle much better.
So sport bike front and rear, cafe on the way.
Exactly.
Any other major components you're going to swap right at the beginning?
Well, we have to get it rolling first, and once we get it rolling, we have to get some plumbing on it. So that's where we're going up to see Mr. Hindle and get a new exhaust system built for it.
Okay, so when you say Mr. Hindle, you mean Lang Hindle?
Lang Hindle.
And they're going to build an exhaust for it, and then we'll be on our way.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I can't wait to see how this looks in 12 weeks, but we'll keep popping in to see the progression.
For sure.
Awesome. Good job.
With the clock ticking, Rob's definitely got his work cut out for him. In the meantime, let's catch up with our old friend Clinton Smout, Chief Instructor with the SMART programs, one of the best off-road riding academies in Canada.
So Clinton, this week on Shifting Gears, we want to talk about the pre-flight check, and more specifically, tire pressures. Why is it so important to check your tires?
I think mostly, if you think of it, we have the size of the palm of our hands holding us onto the road, unlike a car, which is a bigger tread positioning, and you got 4 of them.
Right.
So the tread condition and your tire pressure is critically important to successfully getting back home.
Right.
Now, a lot of people have their bike shop or themselves, they'll check it in the spring, but as ambient temperature goes up in July, your tire pressure's all out of whack.
Right.
So with this particular bike, the Adventure Touring one, there's a good chance the rider's going to go off-road. Maybe they're in Labrador and they've got 300 kilometers of gravel.
Right.
What the manual recommends, Dave, is you drop your tire pressure down when you're off-road a lot. And it gives us less tire pressure, obviously, but better traction because it's a wider footprint.
Right.
Then you get back on the highway heading back to Newfoundland, you definitely want to go back up to 32, 34.
Right.
So having a good gauge, a small pump, is critical for long life on your tire wear.
Right.
And good traction.
Right. So we recommend that you check your tire pressure almost every time you ride, and if not, at least once a week, check your tire pressure throughout your riding season. What happens if your tires are overinflated?
Well, then the bottom part of the tire is the only part that's on the road because it's very skinny compared to what it should be.
Right.
So the engineers have designed that tread pattern, the rounded size, to adhere really well in corners. So you'll have an exciting corner if you have 10 pounds too much.
Right. And if your tires are underinflated, I know for a fact they're going to wear faster, but what else happens?
Well, bad handling. I took a bike out last week, did not do my religious check, haven't been on it in a month. Front tire was down about 15 pounds.
Right.
And as soon as I got to 3rd gear, I could feel the front end wobbling a little, and that was on the pavement.
Right.
So I came right back and put the proper tire pressure in. So underinflated, you're going to go through tires faster because there's more heat.
Yeah.
And really bad handling.
Okay, so it's not just a safety factor, it's also an economy factor, right? Who
Absolutely.
wants to go through tires? Some great advice for Shifting Gears. Thanks, Clinton.
Our pleasure.
Alrighty then, now that we've got you all fired up for another season of riding, stay tuned. Next, riding instructor Jen Martin has some great advice on hitting the road. Stay with us. Portions of Motorcycle Experience are brought to you in part by Harley-Davidson, BMW Motorrad, and Triumph Motorcycles. Welcome back as Motovan presents The Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and now that we've got you all fired up for another season of riding, we'll wrap up our show by passing along some sage advice on how to hit the road. More specifically, how to pack. Joining us now is the Chief Riding Instructor at Georgian College in Barrie, Ontario, Jennifer Martin.
So Jen, this week on Hitting the Road, we want to discuss how to pack for a road trip. And in my mind, I'm thinking 3 nights, 4 nights, and you've been riding for 30 years. So what are some of the little tips you've learned over the years in terms of packing for that kind of a road trip?
Well, you don't want to pack too much. Sometimes we overpack and we bring things that we don't even need. So you want to make sure that when you do pack, you don't pack high and wide on top of the bike. You want to make sure that everything that you do pack is low and center, like the heavy stuff down below and center to the bike to help with the balance of that motorcycle.
Right. We talked a little earlier before we started rolling tape that you like to keep a lot of stuff handy.
Absolutely,
so
I do.
You've got your handy pack here, right? I noticed, first of all, you like to drink and eat.
Yes, my granola bars and water for sure. You want to keep hydrated.
Right. So if you pull over for a quick pit stop, you can grab this quickly. You don't have to dig around for it. You can also keep eating. Cell phone.
Yes,
now
my
that's
cell
important,
phone.
right?
Emergency numbers. If you need to contact somebody, it's ready and accessible to you.
You're riding at night, you like to have a little flashlight handy?
My flashlight, absolutely.
You never know.
Yep.
I know we use GPS all the time now, but sometimes those things die or fail, or you can't get a satellite map.
And it's good to just locate where you are and then plan the next part of your trip. It's nice to see it on the map itself.
Right, so that's got to be handy.
Yeah.
And I know back in the day we used to carry bungee cords, right? You know, we'd bungee the sleeping bag on the back or something like that. But I've started to carry these zip ties because sometimes something might fall off your bike, you might drop your bike, you might crack some plastic, but I find they're just great for even bringing back souvenirs. Sometimes you can use these almost like a bungee cord.
Yeah, and it's great. They're handy and accessible.
So I always keep those handy. Rain. I see we're going to have to talk about rain. That might actually happen on this trip.
No, we'll drive where there's no rain.
Right. So we like to keep the rain suit handy, right? The worst thing you can do is have a sudden burst of rain, and then you've got to dig down to the bottom of your bag to get the rain suit out. These are great. I noticed you pulled these out. These are these new gaiters.
Yeah, they're perfect. I mean, it's great if your body is nice and dry and then your feet get wet, so this is perfect.
Right, so this stuff you keep on top. And then as far as actually packing the luggage itself, you were saying you like to roll everything up, but then you use these shrink bags. These are awesome.
They're great. You know what? You put all your t-shirts in one, you compress them, get all the air out. You can get more out of the space that you do have by doing it that way. And then you know what's in each bag. So t-shirts in one, socks and underwear, your jeans, that type of thing.
Awesome. And then I guess one last thing, when we were talking about a hard luggage system, you know, you've got these one-touch bags. I love this.
Yes.
If you've got a hard luggage system, you've got to have bag liners, because when you get to the end of the road, you're done for the day, there's nothing better than just being able to grab these bags as opposed to taking off your hard luggage or trying to carry everything inside, right? Liners are awesome. Perfect. So some great advice there on hitting the road. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and stay low, not high and wide.
Awesome. Great advice. Thanks. Well, that's it for this week's program, folks. We're all out of time, but if you're looking for more experience, be sure to go to www.motorcycleexperience.ca right now to catch the after show. Till next week, keep your feet on the pegs and your right hand cranked, and always have a full set of instructions. Bye for now.
Closed captioning of this program was brought to you by Honda Canada.
Hey Dave, just want to stop by the booth and say congratulations on the 25th year. I see that you did get the marker off your forehead, so everything's good there. But in all honesty, I just want to say happy 25th anniversary, and it's been a pleasure to be both a part and a viewer of the series, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming up in the future. Thanks very much.